There was a time in America when $1 could buy you a life, not a piece of a life, not a compromise, a life. In 1970, you could walk into any store, any diner, any gas station in this country with a single bill folded in your hand and walk out full. A hot meal, a cold drink, 3 gallons of gas, a ticket to the movies, and change. Actual change. Nobody questioned it. Nobody marveled at it. It was just Tuesday. But not for everyone. Because while some families spent their dollar without a second thought, others were counting every single cent just to make it to Friday. And the distance between those two worlds wasn't miles. It was $1. This is the story of the most powerful, most ordinary, most heartbreaking amount of money America has ever known. And what happened to it will change the way you look at everything in your wallet right now. To understand what a dollar meant in 1970, you have to understand the America holding it. This was a country catching its breath. The 60s had been a decade of earthquakes, Martin Luther King, Bobby Kennedy, Vietnam, the moon, Woodstock. 4 students shot dead at Kent State by their own National Guard in May of that year. America in 1970 was bruised, divided, exhausted, and yet somehow, in the middle of all that noise, ordinary life kept moving. Families woke up. Parents went to work. Kids went to school. Groceries got bought. Dinners got made. And a dollar bill passed through millions of hands every single day like it was nothing. The average American household income in 1970 was $9,870 a year. That's roughly $820 a month before taxes, before rent, before anything. Numbers that today sound not just modest, they sound impossible. And yet something remarkable was happening inside those numbers that pure math cannot explain. The dollar was holding. The United States was still operating in the final years before Nixon pulled the country off what remained of the gold standard in August 1971. Inflation existed, it always does, but it hadn't yet become the monster it would become later in the decade. A $1,970 carried the purchasing power of roughly $8 to $9 today. But here is what the economists never put in their reports. It wasn't just purchasing power. It was dignity power. The power to walk into a room, a store, a diner, a gas station, and feel like your money was enough. Like you belonged there. Like America had made a quiet promise to you and was still keeping it. That promise had a price tag, and it was $1. Let's walk through it. Because the numbers alone won't hit you, you have to feel the weight of each one. At the corner store, a Snickers bar cost a nickel. A pack of Topps baseball cards, with that stiff, dusty stick of gum inside, was 10 cents. A glass bottle of Coca-Cola from the machine, the kind so cold it left your palm wet and red, was also 10 cents. 10 cents. Which means your dollar, your single, unimpressive, folded dollar, bought you 10 Cokes. Or 10 packs of baseball cards. Or any combination of small, perfect, sugary joy you could construct in your 10-year-old imagination. And you had time to think about it too, because nobody was rushing you. At McDonald's, which by 1970 had already spread to over 1,500 locations across the country like a beautiful, efficient 15-cent miracle, a hamburger cost 15 cents. A cheeseburger 18. An order of fries a dime. Your dollar at the Golden Arches didn't buy you a meal. It bought you a banquet. 5 hamburgers, a large fries, and a Coke, and you still walked out with change clicking in your pocket like a tiny percussion section. Before we continue, if this video took you somewhere, I need you to stop right now and go to the comments section. Tell me exactly what you would have bought with your dollar in 1970. And if someone in your life lived through this era, your parents, your grandparents, someone who remembers the 36-cent gallon of gas like it was yesterday, send this to them. They need to see it. And if the Nostalgia Vault is new to you, welcome, subscribe. Because every single week, we open a new door. Every decade, every story, right here. Now let's talk about gas. Because this one lands different. In 1970, a gallon of regular gasoline cost approximately 36 cents. Your dollar bought you nearly 3 full gallons. 3 gallons in one of those long, enormous American cars, a Chevrolet Impala, a Ford LTD, a Pontiac Catalina, meant you could drive 80-90 miles before you needed to think about stopping again. A Sunday drive wasn't a luxury. It was just something you did because why wouldn't you? Because gas was 36 cents and the road was right there. At the movie theater, the single-screen, red-curtained, popcorn-smelling temple of American Saturday afternoons, a matinee ticket cost between 50 cents and $1 depending on your city. In most small towns, 50 cents got you through the door, which meant your dollar bought you a ticket and a box of hot buttered popcorn, and you sat in the dark for 2 hours and disappeared completely into another world. A first-class stamp was 6 cents. A payphone call, a dime. A newspaper on the stand, 10 cents. A gallon of whole milk, 60 cents. A loaf of bread, soft, white, improbably cheap, was 25 cents. For $1, you could send a letter, make a phone call, read the news, and drink a glass of milk. Here is the thing the receipts can't show you. The dollar in 1970 wasn't just transactional. It was cultural. It was woven into the fabric of what it meant to be an American in that specific, unrepeatable moment. At the record store, and there was always a record store, usually narrow, always smelling of cardboard and something electric. A brand new 45 single cost 69 cents. One song on each side. 69 cents. Which means for your dollar you walked out with a record and change. In 1970 that might have been Let It Be by the Beatles, one of the last things they ever gave the world before they shattered. Or Bridge Over Troubled Water by Simon and Garfunkel. Or Ain't No Mountain High Enough by Diana Ross, her voice filling your entire living room from a piece of vinyl that cost less than a modern-day parking meter. You carried that record home in a paper sleeve. You put it on the turntable. You dropped the needle. And for 3 minutes, whatever was wrong with the world, Vietnam, Nixon, the news, the argument your parents had at dinner, all of it went somewhere else. $1. One record. That was the whole transaction. At Woolworth's 5 and dime, and if you didn't grow up near a Woolworth's, I am genuinely sorry, $1 was practically a lifestyle. A picture frame, a candle, a packet of flower seeds, a bag of salted peanuts, and a spool of thread, and you still weren't done spending. These stores were their own civilization. Long counters, glass cases, women who knew every single item in that store by heart and were not shy about letting you know. For a child, that dollar carried a very specific kind of electricity. 100 pieces of penny candy. Exactly 100. The math of it was almost spiritual. A 12-cent Marvel comic book. A 75-cent model airplane kit. A grape soda for the walk home. A child with $1 in 1970 was a child with power. With agency. With a small, perfect, self-contained corner of the world that belonged entirely to them. Nobody had to explain the value to them. They felt it in their hands. And then, slowly, then all at once, everything changed. August 15, 1971. Nixon appears on national television and announces that the United States will no longer convert dollars to gold. The economists understood immediately what that meant. Most regular Americans didn't feel it right away, but it was coming. The oil embargo hit in 1973 like a closed fist. Gas lines stretched around city blocks. Prices that had been stable for years suddenly lurched upward like something waking from sleep. The candy bar that cost a nickel in 1970 was 15 cents by 1975. The movie ticket that cost 50 cents was over $1 by 1978. And the raises at work, if they came, chased the prices but never quite caught them. By 1980, the purchasing power of the $1,970 had been cut nearly in half. Not by one dramatic moment, not by one villain, but by the slow, grinding, invisible machinery of inflation that nobody had thought to warn the ordinary American family about while they were busy just living. The 5 and dimes closed one by one. Woolworths served its last lunch counter meal in 1997. The corner soda fountain became a memory and then became a myth. The penny candy became a metaphor for everything that once made sense and no longer did. And somewhere inside all of that, somewhere in the gap between the 36-cent gallon of gas and what you paid last week to fill your tank, lives an entire generation's worth of quiet grief. Not loud grief. Not the kind you talk about at dinner. The kind that surfaces when you're standing in a grocery store, staring at a price tag, doing the math in your head and thinking, this isn't right. This isn't how it's supposed to feel. That feeling has a birthday, and it was born the day the dollar stopped keeping its promise. The mother who bought groceries in 1970 didn't know she was living in the last good years of the American dollar. Nobody handed her a sign. Nobody told her to remember the way the change felt in her palm, heavy and real and sufficient. She just lived. She just shopped. She just fed her family and moved on to the next thing, the way people do when they don't know they're standing inside a moment that will one day be someone else's nostalgia. We are that someone else now. And when we look back at what $1 bought in 1970, the meals, the records, the movies, the gas, the penny candy, the simple, uncomplicated enoughness of it all, we're not just looking at prices. We're looking at a promise America made to its people. And we're looking at the morning it stopped keeping it. That dollar is gone. The world that held it is gone. But the memory of what it felt like to hold something that meant something, that's worth more than anything in your wallet right now. And you already knew that. That's why you're still here. If this video took you somewhere, a store, a memory, a Saturday morning you hadn't thought about in years, I want to hear it. Drop it in the comments. Tell me exactly what you would have bought with your dollar in 1970. Every single comment gets read. And if someone in your life lived through this era, your parents, your grandparents, someone who remembers the 36-cent gallon of gas like it was yesterday, send this to them. They need to see it. And if the Nostalgia Vault is new to you, welcome. Subscribe. Because every single week, we open a new door. Every decade, every story, right here.